A strange new object has just performed an impossible maneuver near the Sun, and it may not be a comet at all. On October 29, 2025, an interstellar visitor known as 3I Atlas reached its closest approach to the Sun, what astronomers call perihelion. That alone would be newsworthy. This is only the third confirmed object from another star system ever detected in our solar system. But what happened next defies explanation. Between November 6th and 9th, multiple observatories from Italy to Hawaii recorded a sudden brightening. The object increased in luminosity by a factor of 5. But not only that, its colour shifted into the blue, beyond that of the Sun. And most baffling of all, its motion deviated from its expected gravitational path, a shift that required the equivalent of 5 billion tons of mass being expelled as thrust. Except no tail, no outgassing, no debris. Is it natural, artificial, something else? What you're about to hear is not theory. It's data, imagery, and expert analysis. And the implications may be extraordinary. Welcome back to Cosmic Frontline. If you've ever wondered what's out there, what really comes in from the deep void between stars, this video is for you. Like, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because this story is unfolding fast, and by December 19th, 2025, when 3I Atlas makes its closest approach to Earth, we may witness something no generation before us ever has. And stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why Harvard's Dr. Avi Loeb told Congress this object maneuvered, and why some now believe 3I Atlas could be more than rock and ice. Let's start at the beginning. In September 2025, a team at the Atlas project, that's the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System based in Hawaii, noticed a fast-moving object entering the inner solar system from a high-inclination orbit. At first glance, it resembled a comet. Diffuse halo, slightly fuzzy profile, and inbound from the outer dark. But further analysis told a more intriguing story. Designated 3I Atlas, it became the third interstellar object on record, following Oumuamua in 2017 and 2I Borisov in 2019. Only this one wasn't acting like either. It lacked a classic tail. It didn't follow the thermal emission curves we'd expect from icy bodies. And its trajectory, perfectly aligned with the plane of the planets, what astronomers call coplanar orbital geometry, far too precise for random chance. Astronomers initially speculated it could be a dry asteroid, until the jets appeared. By early November, telescopes from the Virtual Telescope Project in Italy, NASA's JPL, and the Las Vegas-based Galileo Project field station began reporting the same thing. 7 visible jets radiated from the core of 3I Atlas. But they weren't symmetric, they weren't uniform, and they weren't fading away like sublimating ice. Instead, they flickered, twisted, and seemed to direct themselves. Then came the colour shift. Normally, objects closer to the Sun get warmer, emitting more red and yellow light. But 3I Atlas did the opposite. It became bluer. Spectral data showed it outshining the Sun's wavelength in the blue band, suggesting emissions in the shorter, high-energy wavelengths. Yet paradoxically, its estimated surface temperature was cooler than the Sun's 800 Kelvin. This should be impossible, unless there's some kind of internal energy or controlled emission. Which leads to our next mystery. On November 7th, 2025, Harvard astrophysicist Dr. Avi Loeb appeared on Newsmax, stating publicly, "It maneuvered." He wasn't speaking metaphorically. Using data from NASA's JPL Horizon system and orbital simulations, Loeb demonstrated that 3I Atlas deviated from its projected path by a margin that could not be explained by gravity alone. The acceleration required was equivalent to ejecting 5 billion tons of mass, but no such mass was observed. Even more curious, in the direction of acceleration was toward the Sun, not away, which makes no sense for cometary evaporation. Comets release gas due to heating, and that pushes them away from the Sun. But here, the impulse looked intentional. Could this be the first object we've seen accelerating under control? Dr. Gianluca Massi of the Virtual Telescope Project called the behaviour strikingly non-natural. Meanwhile, NASA has remained officially silent, notably holding back high-rise images from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, which passed within long-range viewing distance during the week of perihelion. Why haven't those images been released? Some in Congress want answers. On Capitol Hill, Representative Anna Paulina Luna has publicly called for the release of NASA's full imaging suite on 3i Atlas, including thermal and optical data from both the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and Earth-based observatories. There's no justification for withholding this from the scientific community, she said during a November 12th press conference. We need transparency. Now. This echoes a growing concern within the scientific establishment. That information about interstellar objects is being filtered, delayed, or quietly reclassified before public dissemination. After all, both Oumuamua and 3i Atlas have now shown signs of non-gravitational acceleration. Both have lacked classic cometary tails. Both have sparked debate over whether we're seeing technology rather than nature. If 3i Atlas is behaving like a probe, emitting jets, changing direction, radiating blue light, what are we really looking at? Imagine standing in front of a massive digital rendering of the solar system. Using software like SkyEye or Stellarium, you track a faint bluish object arcing across the inner solar system. Not randomly, but following a curve aligned with the ecliptic. As of today, November 25th, 2025, 3i Atlas is positioned between the ET orbits of Earth and Venus, approximately 115 million kilometers from our planet. It's moving at over 150 kilometers per second, nearly 3 times faster than any Earth-launched rocket. Its path is hyperbolic, meaning it will not stay in the solar system. But what it does while it's here is what matters, because on December 19th, it will make its closest approach to Earth, a rare window to observe this mysterious visitor in unprecedented detail. And what we'll see then may change everything. Let's talk alignments. On October 29th, when 3i Atlas reached perihelion, the object was nearly perfectly coplanar with the planetary disk. A striking contrast to earlier interstellar objects like Borisov, which arrived from far-off inclinations. This kind of alignment is statistically rare, especially for objects not bound to our solar system. And yet, 3i Atlas navigated the exact orbital plane where Earth, Mars, and Venus all reside. Coincidence? Maybe. But some have pointed out that this geometry allows for easier gravitational assists, or observational flybys, and that's not all. When tracing back its entry vector, astronomers found something eerie. The inbound direction of 3i Atlas is within 9 degrees of the 1977 WOW signal, the famous 72-second burst of narrowband radio from the constellation Sagittarius that has never been explained. That's not proof of anything. But it's interesting. Spectral readings gathered between November 3rd and 11th by ESA's Gaia Observatory and ground-based facilities in Chile and Arizona reveal a curious composition. Nickel-rich content, low ion ratio, minimal volatiles like carbon dioxide or water ice. In other words, not a classic icy comet. In fact, it resembles more a metallic body. Possibly nickel alloyed like some asteroids. Or hull plating. Speculation. Perhaps. But the lack of standard emissions, the missing tail, and the presence of high reflectivity spikes in the blue spectrum have caused even conservative scientists to raise an eyebrow. And that's before we get to the most recent anomaly. Just this week, a new high-resolution image from the Virtual Telescope project shows what appears to be a faint, symmetric jet trailing behind 3i Atlas, angled directly at the sun. Not diffuse, not chaotic. Focused. It looks for all intents and purposes like a rocket exhaust. Now, to be clear, comets can produce jets. But those jets are typically the result of uneven sublimation, random and always facing away from the sun due to heating. This one, it's aligned toward the sun with no visible tail elsewhere. If this were a probe using controlled deceleration, positioning for a slingshot maneuver, or orbital insertion, this is what it might look like. Is that what's happening? The object's acceleration profile suggests non-gravitational forces consistent with internal propulsion, not chaotic gas release. Yet NASA has made no official comment. What we do know is this. The thrust required to alter its course was not small. No matching mass ejection has been observed. The direction of movement contradicts all comet models. Something very strange is going on. And as we stare deeper into the void, watching this object move in ways no rock ever should. The questions keep multiplying. Who or what sent it? Is this a probe, a fragment, or something else entirely? And perhaps most haunting of all, is it watching us as we're watching it? So now the world is asking, what is 3I Atlas? Is it an ordinary interstellar object, maybe rare, maybe strange, but still natural? Or are we witnessing something altogether different? In this segment, we'll explore the competing theories, walk through the latest orbital models, and examine the alignment patterns that some experts believe point to deliberate trajectory planning. Because as this object speeds toward Earth's vicinity, just weeks away, the evidence is mounting that this is not just a cosmic rock passing by. Let's begin with a conservative view, the natural explanation. According to most traditional astronomers, 3I Atlas could simply be a nickel-rich cometary fragment, a chunk of interstellar debris shed from a long-dead star system. Its peculiar behaviour, they argue, could be the result of uneven surface heating causing asymmetric jets, fragmentation events inside the coma, unknown outgassing chemicals invisible in traditional wavelengths. In other words, it's weird, but not impossible. However, this explanation struggles to account for several facts. For instance, no visible debris field, no consistent tail behaviour, spectral blue shift without corresponding temperature increase, acceleration directed toward the Sun, coplanar orbital geometry. Rare for interstellar origin. Even those trying to fit 3I Atlas into known categories admit this isn't normal. Dr. Elena Velasquez, a planetary scientist at the University of Arizona, summarized it succinctly on November 13th. If this is a comet, then it's the most disciplined, coordinated, and tidy comet we've ever seen. And that brings us to the second possibility, the one gaining traction online and even in some corners of academia. What if 3I Atlas is not just passively falling through space, but navigating it? This would explain the non-random jet behaviour, the directed motion against solar gravity, the steady course aligned with the solar plane, the sudden brightening and colour shift after perihelion, and that one curious image showing what resembles a controlled exhaust. Dr. Avi Loeb has not outright declared the object is artificial, but he has made one thing very clear. We must not dismiss the possibility. Loeb, who led the charge in studying Oumuamua back in 2017, says this object shares too many features to be coincidence, and with the Galileo project now focused on follow-up observations, their Las Vegas station has begun 24-hour monitoring. As Loeb said during his congressional briefing on November 10th, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, but ignoring data because it challenges our assumptions is not science. It's denial. Let's talk geometry. 3I Atlas isn't just passing through the solar system randomly, it's gliding almost perfectly along the ecliptic plane, the flat disk in which all major planets orbit. That's not just statistically rare, it's astronomically improbable for an interstellar object. For comparison, 2I Borisov entered at a 44-degree inclination. Oumuamua entered at 33 degrees 3I Atlas, just under 5 degrees off the ecliptic. This near-planar entry trajectory puts it directly into the neighbourhood of Earth, Venus, and Mars, and right into range of multiple orbital telescopes. According to simulations run on Skyhive, a visualization tool used by astrophysics labs, 3I Atlas passed within 3 Galilei of Earth's orbital path during perihelion week. That's like threading a needle from another galaxy. And then there's the bigger question. Could the alignment itself suggest intentional pathfinding? To understand how odd this is, let's compare to previous interstellar visitors. Tumbling motion, no-tail reflected sunlight with a 10.1 shape ratio, unexpected acceleration away from the sun, classic comet behaviour. Outgassing and tail observed, high-velocity hyperbolic escape, jet behaviour without tail, acceleration toward the sun, sudden spectral blue shift movement near the ecliptic possible, directed thrust signature, simply put. 3I Atlas blends features of both, yet matches neither. It's too controlled for Borisov, too symmetrical for Oumuamua, too blue to be thermal, and too aligned to be accidental. What kind of natural object does all of this? Let's mark our calendars. Because on December 19th, 2025, 3i Atlas will pass just 0.3 astronomical units from Earth. That's roughly 45 million kilometers, the closest it will come before exiting the solar system forever. Here's what we expect. Radar imaging from Goldstone and Green Bank telescopes, infrared analysis from the James Webb Space Telescope, optical tracking from the Virtual Telescope project, and, possibly, long-range visuals from NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter if the images are finally declassified. The goal? Determine whether the object emits new jets, fragments into smaller pieces, releases structured components, or shows signs of energy output. If even one of these occurs, the natural hypothesis will be in serious trouble. As Dr. Loeb told the Harvard Gazette, we have one chance to capture high-resolution evidence. After December, it's gone. Let's entertain the possibility, just briefly. What would a technological probe look like if it were designed to explore planetary systems stealthily? High entry velocity, non-threatening shape, no radio emissions, passive until closest approach, solar-aligned trajectory, acceleration using directed mass, ejection sound familiar. That description matches everything we're seeing in 3i Atlas. Some theorists propose that if an advanced civilization wanted to survey planets without interference, this is exactly how they do it. Send passive probes that act natural, right up until the moment of closest approach. And while that may sound like science fiction, so did interstellar objects just 10 years ago. Here's where things get even stranger. On November 15th, the Galileo Project's Las Vegas Infrared Observatory detected what it called a localized thermal anomaly in the vicinity of 3i Atlas. According to field logs, the object briefly emitted in mid-infrared bands, suggesting heat dissipation not consistent with cometary release. The burst lasted less than 90 seconds, then disappeared. Was it internal heating, an energy dump, a course correction? We don't know. But Loeb's team is now trying to correlate that infrared spike with the directional vector change observed on November 9th, just days earlier. If confirmed, this would be the first time we've seen a multi-spectrum propulsion signature from an interstellar object. And that changes everything. One of the more controversial parts of this story is what we're not hearing. As of this video's release, NASA has not released high-res, high-rise images. The Jet Propulsion Laboratory has issued no press briefings. The ESA has released limited spectral summaries, but no modelling. And none of the major institutions are addressing the acceleration anomaly publicly. Why? Is it caution? Lack of consensus? Or is the data still being validated? Some in the science community fear that this follows a familiar pattern. Extraordinary data is quietly buried when it doesn't fit established models. But in the age of public telescopes, global citizen astronomers, and AI-enhanced image analysis, secrecy doesn't last. Eventually, the truth will come out. Let's look at the range of interpretations now on the table. Mainstream science hypothesis. A metallic interstellar fragment, accelerated by asymmetric heating. Blue shift due to complex reflective properties. Technological probe hypothesis. Loeb inspired. Object is a passive explorer, maneuvered after perihelion using internal mass ejection. Spectral data matches engineered surfaces. Fragmented structure theory. Object could be part of a larger cluster. Other fragments may trail or lead the visible piece. Suggests distributed survey system. Wow. Signal link theory. Object may originate from the same region as 1977. Wow radio burst raises long-term surveillance possibility. Mirror or decoy theory. Object not itself intelligent, but part of a network or sent in response to earlier detections. Are these fringe? Maybe. But many of the natural explanations are just as far-fetched under normal physics. And that's the point. In the final days leading to December 19th, dozens of observatories are racing to track, image, and analyse this object before it disappears. But what if it doesn't leave? What if, at closest approach, it does something else? Changes trajectory, splits, emits, or sends something back? Stay with us, because in part 3 we'll explore exactly what might happen during closest approach, break down the final modelling predictions, and dive into how the scientific community is splitting into factions over the truth of 3i Atlas. It's now a countdown to December 19th, 2025, the moment when 3i Atlas makes its closest approach to Earth. This isn't just a flyby, it's a once-in-a-century observation window that could finally reveal what this object really is, whether it fragments like a comet, behaves like a probe, or unleashes something entirely unexpected. In this segment, we'll walk through the 4 leading scenarios astronomers are preparing for, explore the new predictive models just released, and examine the growing divide between mainstream institutions and the emerging coalition of independent observers. Because this isn't just about what 3i Atlas does next, it's about who gets to control the narrative when it happens. Mark the date, December 19th, 2025. That's when 3i Atlas will pass just 0.3 AU from Earth, around 45 million kilometers. In cosmic terms, that's close. For comparison, that's closer than Mars at most points in its orbit. This flyby gives astronomers a critical opportunity. Radar imaging from NASA's Goldstone and Green Bank arrays, mid-infrared tracking from the James Webb Space Telescope, live optical feeds from the Virtual Telescope project in Italy, amateur telescopes globally coordinating for 72-hour continuous coverage. If this object has surface features, ejects fragments, or emits structured light, we'll see it. Even more importantly, if it changes velocity again, like it did near the Sun, that could confirm non-gravitational propulsion in real time. As of this week, astrophysicists have narrowed the possible outcomes into 4 primary models. Let's break them down. At closest approach, the object may begin to disintegrate, shedding volatile gases and ice. Jets may increase randomly due to solar heating. The blue shift could be explained as scattered light from microscopic particles. Irregular tail formation. Outgassing in UV infrared. No coordinated movement. A dense nickel-heavy object, possibly like 16 Psyche, is passing through inertly. Spectral anomalies are due to surface reflectivity, not emissions. Non-gravitational forces are caused by minor internal venting or asymmetrical shape. No tail, no mass shedding. Uniform brightness. The object is artificial. Maneuvers using internal mass expulsion or other unknown propulsion. Alignments and vector changes are intentional. Velocity change during flyby jet appearing on command. Regular pulse patterns in IR radio bands. Possible secondary object release. Probability estimate. Unknown. Not modelled by official agencies, but Loeb's team gives it a 10-15% possibility. The object is not singular, but part of a coordinated multi-body structure, possibly a surveyor swarm or drone formation. Current observations only show the leading fragment. Smaller bodies trail behind, masked by distance or angle. Post-flyby radar detects multiple returns. Sudden brightening from unseen components. Blue shift modulation, not explainable by single source. Probability estimate. Not published, speculative, but gaining attention in underground forums and academic fringe journals. In a joint release on November 24th, teams at Harvard's Center for Astrophysics and NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory published a new orbital refinement using data from ESA's Gaia and NASA's NEOWISE. Key findings. The acceleration event on November 9th was equivalent to a DV of 6.1 meters per second, energy expenditure required, approx. 2.3x 10^15 joules, no matching mass loss visible in imaging from October 29th to November 18th. Spin rate is too stable for a tumbling object that's shedding mass. In other words, it changed speed without changing structure. This further supports what Loeb calls the active object hypothesis. Right now, a deepening philosophical rift is spreading across the scientific community. On one side, traditional agencies, NASA, ESA, Caltech, and the IAU calling for cautious interpretation and warning against anthropocentric projection. On the other, independent coalitions, private observatories, and public scientists like Avi Loeb, who insist the data must speak louder than dogma. This isn't just a disagreement, it's about what kind of science we do when the evidence starts looking unfamiliar. The IAU, International Astronomical Union, stated, while 3i Atlas exhibits anomalous features, no evidence currently supports artificial origin. But critics say that statement ignores the acceleration math and spectral readings. Dr. Eleni Tsakalos from the University of Athens told Greek public radio. If it walks like a spacecraft, jets like a spacecraft, and aims its thrust like a spacecraft, what else do you need? In response, a global network of citizen astronomers, university labs, and private observatories has formed what's being called the Atlas Observation Grid, an informal coalition pooling data live during the December flyby. Participating groups include Las Cumbres Observatory, Global Telescope Network, European Southern Observatory, Chile, Subaru Telescope, Tai, Hawaii, Galileo Project, Las Vegas Station Chabot, Space Center, California Amateur Group, Virtual Telescope Project, Italy. Each site will live stream its feed, with some deploying AI anomaly detection to flag jet emissions, pixel flares, or object duplication. This is perhaps the first time in history a potential technological flyby will be crowdsourced. And now, with weeks to go, the theories are getting wilder. 3i Atlas is a passive probe sent long ago by an AEMOT, advanced species. Its mission: observe planetary systems and transmit findings. The object is not operational anymore. It's debris drifting on automated commands. Jets are old propulsion routines triggering under solar energy. The blue shift emissions aren't propulsion. They're messages. A signal, modulated in photon bursts to be detected by the watchers, us. What looks like blue light is Cherenkov radiation, implying a high-speed particle system inside the object, suggests a reactor-based propulsion, not chemistry. These remain speculative. But after Oumuamua, which twisted, brightened and vanished, nothing is off the table. So what should we all be watching for on December 19th? Here's a breakdown of key observation targets during the flyby. Even a 1 ms deviation from trajectory would be proof of force application. A jet facing away from Earth would imply a deliberate escape vector. A jet facing toward the Sun again would break all comet models: uniform reflectivity, metallic shell, uneven brightness, natural crust, radar returns of multiple points, sudden flares from nearby coordinates. Repeating patterns or blinking could indicate transmission. Colour changes post-perigee would suggest new activity. And most of all, if NASA goes quiet again, that may be its own kind of signal. On November 23rd, just 2 days ago, the Galileo Project team in Nevada detected a brief photometric dip, as if something passed in front of 3i Atlas, casting a shadow across their sensor array. Duration: 0.12 seconds. Brightness loss: 3.8%. Dr. Rachel Kim, working with Loeb's team, says it could have been a tumbling fragment, a separate, smaller body, or a maneuver NASA has issued no comment. The dip aligns perfectly with a potential course correction window, had the object adjusted its path using onboard thrust. Are we watching a controlled descent, or is something following it? Either way, this isn't over. Coming up in part 4, we'll explore final week strategies. What happens if 3i Atlas doesn't leave the philosophical implications if it's proven artificial, and what governments might do next? Because if this object reveals intelligent design, Earth's place in the universe may never be the same. We're now entering the final phase of this unfolding cosmic story. With 3i Atlas just weeks away from its closest approach, and observatories worldwide on high alert, the question is no longer, is something unusual happening? It's, what happens next? In this closing segment, we'll explore what it would mean if 3i Atlas is proven artificial, not just for astronomy, but for science, security, religion, and society at large. We'll also cover what governments might already know, what they're doing behind the scenes, and what the best case and worst case scenarios might be, because if this object doesn't leave the solar system or changes direction again, the world may wake up to a new cosmic reality. Let's ask the unthinkable. What if, on December 19th, the object decelerates? What if it emits jets not consistent with sublimation? What if a secondary body detaches? What if a signal is detected and confirmed? These are not science fiction anymore. These are operational scenarios currently under discussion in closed-door sessions at Harvard, NASA, and, as insiders suggest, would Isaki within US military aerospace divisions. In a leaked memo reviewed by independent analysts, the Defense Intelligence Agency reportedly flagged 3I Atlas as an unidentified, non-hostile interstellar object exhibiting anomalous kinematics. Translated, it moved, it's not ours, and it doesn't seem aggressive. But that raises the stakes even higher. Here's what we know. Representative Anna Paulina Luna has submitted a formal request to NASA and the DoD demanding full data transparency by December 15th, 4 days before flyby. The House Science Committee has scheduled a classified hearing for December 13th to include briefings from Harvard's Galileo project and JPL. The European Space Agency, ESA, has gone silent. No updates since November 20th. And rumours are swirling that a private US defence contractor has been tasked with modelling technological object capture windows for future missions. So, while the public is preparing for observation, others may be preparing for contact. Now here's the scenario that few want to say out loud. What if 3I Atlas stops, not literally halts in space, but changes trajectory in a way that keeps it within the solar system? For instance, performs a braking manoeuvre, redirects toward Jupiter for gravity, enters a high elliptical orbit instead of escaping. Any of these would invalidate the current assumption that this is a flyby object on a one-time path. And here's the terrifying part. If it stays, it may mean it always intended to, and that raises two fundamental questions. Who or what sent it? Why now? Let's step into the hypothetical. Suppose 3I Atlas is a probe, launched from another star system, on a trajectory designed to intercept inner planetary systems, gather data, and possibly send back findings via high-speed photonic communication. Then the flyby isn't just a coincidence. It's part of a mission, and this isn't crazy talk anymore. Dr. Avi Loeb, in his recent Galileo project paper, laid out the mathematical framework for interstellar travel using light sails, non-volatile thrust, and metallic shielding, all of which align eerily well with 3I Atlas's observed properties. In that scenario, Earth was never the destination. We're just one of many stops on a long cosmic route. But what if we weren't just observed? What if we were noticed? If we confirm that 3I Atlas is artificial, the implications ripple far beyond science. Biology, cosmology, and physics would need immediate revision. We'd know we're not alone, and never were. Research. Priorities would shift towards SETI, deep space tracking, and technological archaeology. National defense agencies would reallocate budgets overnight. Space treaties would be revised. Civilian access to tracking tools may become limited. Some will be thrilled. Others will panic. The narrative of human exceptionalism will fracture. New theological movements may emerge. Ancient texts will be re-examined under the they knew lens. Debates over first contact and divine origin will explode across faiths. Ideally, humanity comes together, but history warns us. Unknowns often divide, and that's just day one. Back in 2017, when Oumuamua entered our system, the same sequence unfolded. Strange behaviour, sudden acceleration, no tail radar, silence, and then official dismissal. Now, with 3I Atlas, the pattern is repeating. Except this time the data is clearer, the acceleration is stronger, and the global community is watching. We're at the point where the truth can't be dismissed. As one researcher from the European Space Agency told a colleague off record, either we're in denial or we're in history. If 3I Atlas is a probe, and if it's transmitting, can we reply? Technically, yes. We already have. The Arecibo message, 1974. The Voyager Golden Record, 1970 ambient. Recent Meidhai signals, messaging extraterrestrial intelligence directed at exoplanets. But here's the complication. If this is a probe and it's autonomous, it may not be listening for us. It might be designed only to observe and send its data elsewhere. Or maybe it's waiting for a trigger, a certain signature, a signal from us, a timing window. And if we respond, what exactly should we say? Do we say, we're ready? Or do we say, please leave? Among the most popular and most chilling theories gaining traction is something called the Watchers theory. It suggests that advanced civilizations send out passive probes to observe emerging intelligent life, long before contact, like galactic wildlife cameras. The theory proposes the probes don't interact, they simply catalogue, and they return home or transmit only when intelligent behaviour is confirmed. Some say 3i Atlas's sudden manoeuvre, jet alignment, and blue shift could all be signs that it's responding to our attention. In other words, maybe we weren't just watching it. Maybe we've passed some kind of cosmic test, and now it's watching us. At this moment, as 3i Atlas streaks silently toward its closest point to Earth, we face a crossroads. We can dismiss the data, write it off as another cosmic oddity, investigate rigorously with transparency and open collaboration, speculate responsibly, and prepare for what discovery might mean. Or ignore it and pretend none of this is happening. The choice is ours, but the clock is ticking, and the sky is watching. The most mysterious thing about 3i Atlas isn't its colour. It's not the jets. It's not even the manoeuvre. It's the fact that no natural phenomenon explains all of it. And in science, when nature fails, we must consider design. So ask yourself, what kind of civilization sends silent scouts across galaxies? How long have they been doing this? And are we their first or their last stop? December 19th, 2025. That's the day. On that day, hundreds of telescopes will be watching. Dozens of satellites will track every frame. Scientists will hold their breath. And perhaps, for the first time in history, humanity will come face to face with a visitor from beyond. And if anything changes, if it moves, splits, signals, or stays, we'll cover it here, in real time. So make sure you're subscribed to Cosmic Frontline. Hit that bell, because I'll be releasing follow-up videos every 24 hours during the week of closest approach. You don't want to miss what happens. Leave a comment below and tell me. What do you think will happen on December 19th? Will we discover a natural object? Or a technological messenger? And if it is a probe, do you think it's watching us now? I read every comment. I want to hear your theories, because we're in uncharted space now, and the answers, they're coming.